What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason and Joe here. It's the end of the year, so it's time for our end of the year videos like we do every year. We're going to kick things off this year with our award show. We will have, our big long video about our favorite albums of the year. We're going to do a top 25s, and then we'll also have bonus videos of the rest of our top hundreds. So we'll be talking about a lot of music. So we got how many categories do we got? We got nine categories, I think. We're going to do best album cover, most overhyped album, the biggest surprise, the biggest disappointment, the best debut album, the senior circuit, which is best album by an artist debuting over 30 years ago, our best comeback album of the year, a record that only we liked, and our favorite EP of the year. All right, let's kick it off with our favorite album covers of the year.
Well, I can't say I really noticed that many album covers this year. Nothing like really great. Especially like everyone just copied the Brat thing. Like it was so overwhelming in pop culture that kind of got a little annoying. And I don't know if there's anyone else that did like a really great job, but my pick is going to be Jordy Greep. Something, well, it's raw, it's evocative, it's a little startling. The image of the beheaded man, the trail of blood, the scythe-wielding woman, and they're kissing. And it's a Japanese illustration by Toshio Seiki. Saiki, I don't know how you say his name. But it's just one of those album covers that it doesn't really give away anything about the artist or the sound. Like I wouldn't expect that music to come from an album with that on the cover, but it's definitely something that catches your eye and makes you think and sort of like, oh, that looks interesting. I might want to listen to that, especially if you're, into like weird music, which is what I would assume would be on the other side of an album cover like that.
For mine, couple honorable mentions. I think the Red Cross record from this year is pretty cool. It's kind of like a play on the Beatles' White Album, but it's all red, and it's like I think the actual physical copy of it is like a suede or velvet type of finish. That one's cool. I like the Lemon Twigs new one with the one brother upside down and they're slightly askew. Ceremony by the Joy Hotel is pretty cool. But my actual winner, my pick is going to be Moip's Giving by Meeting of Important People. Um, it's like this old department store advertising, and the cool thing about it is actually the story behind it, and the illustration was actually done by Josh, the lead singer's grandmother. She was a fashion illustrator in like I think the 30s or 40s when it, I'm not sure exactly when it was done, but she actually did draw this cover. So I think it was for Horn's department store. So he kind of took it, repurposed it, and yeah, I think that one's cool. Most overhyped album of the year.
Well, there's a lot of them. Probably some that are on my top 10 for the year. But for me, I gotta go with Cindy Lee. Diamond Jubilee is the most overhyped. It won Pitchfork's album of the year. It's on, top five, top 10 of a ton of publications. It's just, it's 2 hours long. It was released only on YouTube. I guess it's available on Bandcamp now, but like, it was so hard to listen to. It was annoying in that aspect. And then the actual music, it's sort of hypnagogic, I don't know, pop. It's kind of got an interesting old school sound to it, but I don't know, it's like lo-fi and the vocals are all washed out and like it could have been a pretty decent 30-minute album. Instead, it's a 2 hour album that you have to listen to on YouTube, which makes it just not something. I did it once. I'm never ever gonna do it again.
I don't totally disagree with you there. Yeah, I think that's a bit overhyped. Yeah, even if you take the best 40 minutes from it, it's still maybe it could scrape its way to 4 stars. I think I have it at 3 stars as is. But my pick though for most overhyped, a record that I only have at 2 stars is Brat by Charlie XCX. not a fan. There are some moments I don't want to like totally just hate on it. There are some moments where I thought like, okay, this is kind of fun. I'm enjoying this melody. I kind of get this like it's just pop. It's buoyant. It's fun, but it would always just go back to something else that I found annoying or just like irritating. So it never stayed in the sweet spot for me too long.
Have you heard her other albums? I do want to know where it would compare.
No,
Okay.
I love
That's the only thing I need to know. Like, comparatively, if this gets 2 stars, some of the more like hyper pop leaning
I'm
one
sure.
would be 1 star, if that.
I love Boom Clap though. That I think probably that era is where I would prefer to be.
Been a long time.
Okay, our biggest surprise of the year. This was kind of a tough category for me.
Yeah, same for me. I don't know if I was really surprised by anything to like a huge degree, but I guess my big surprise would be Vampire Weekend, just because I've never been a huge fan of the band. Always too like Brooklyn indie cutesy, like just the antithesis of what I like and my style. Even though, some of their songs I liked and I didn't hate any, didn't hate all of their albums, just their whole aesthetic pissed me off. So I wasn't expecting to like the new one as much as I did, but it was 4 stars, a high 4 star when we reviewed it on the channel. And I just think it's like the least cutesy indie nonsense in it. It didn't make me feel like I was at a, hipster party in Brooklyn when I was listening to it. And I think without that, the rest of the album kind of shone through with all the interesting arrangements and strong melodies, and it was just a good album. So, that's the biggest surprise I would say of the year for me.
So yeah, this category kind of implies like an artist that you normally don't like suddenly making something that you do like, and that is not the direction I'm taking my pick. This is an artist I like and have liked and have talked about a bunch on the channel and have championed, but it seemed going into this record like I was like this was going to be the jump the shark moment. I wasn't feeling the singles that much. And then the morning that it came out, everyone on the Discord seemed to be bashing it and just saying like that it was boring and they didn't like it. Um, but for me, it is Underdressed at the Symphony by Faye Webster. Yeah, I think it's really good. I got it at 4 stars. Yeah, I think I still don't really like Lego Ring, the song with Lil Yachty, but I think the rest of the record's as good as her other stuff. I dig it a lot.
Interesting. I was too under the impression that you did not like that album. And maybe it was just because you mentioned not liking the singles.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Never followed up. Okay. Interesting. I did not like that album that much. I thought it was okay, but I don't know. Not a big Faye Webster fan to begin with.
Next up is Biggest Disappointment. Interestingly, my pick for this has the same score as the Faye Webster record, so it's kind of all about perspective and expectation.
Uh, so many things disappoint me in life and in music. But I would say the biggest disappointment for me, I think everything this year was sort of like kind of where I expected it to be. I didn't have any like massive, like, oh, I can't believe they did this to me moments. I would say Dua Lipa's Radical Optimism was a pretty big disappointment. Future Nostalgia was a ton of fun. I had some of the best singles the past couple years. It had staying power. Dua Lipa, big personality, force of nature, tons of charisma. And, I think everyone was expecting, something maybe new, something big, something different. But no, Radical Optimism showed zero growth, zero new ideas. The singles were okay, but they kind of had the same, sound as Future Nostalgia and not as many hooks. And I don't know, when an album comes out like Future Nostalgia, like you expect something big for the next one. And this was just a total retread. It took too long to come out after the last one too, so just a big wasted opportunity for her to, seize the crown of world's biggest pop star. Or, something. I think she basically took a big step back, and I think people are a little more iffy on her now.
For me, I'm gonna go with Tiger's Blood by Waxahachie as my biggest disappointment of the year. I still think it's pretty good. I got it at 4 stars, but going from my album of the year in 2020 to this year being, spoiler, it's like in the 60s this year for me. Huge drop off. I just think it didn't find anything new to do with the sound she found on St. Cloud, and in fact, it kind of like rounded off all of the interesting edges and cool things about St. Cloud and just turned it into like an even more just like basic singer-songwriter record, which I still think the writing's good and I like her voice, so it's enjoyable. But again, it's about perspective and expectations, and my expectations were very high, and it didn't really meet those expectations. Next up, we've got our favorite debut album of the year.
Well, my favorite debut is from McGee, MKG. I mean, it's a little bit cheating because he has a mixtape and two EPs already. But debut studio album, so it counts. And I just thought it was a really cool album. And what I like about it most, I think, is the fact that it's a little raw, and it's hard to really tell what direction he's gonna go with. I think he'd go with a ton of different things. He kind of has this combination of like bedroom pop and R&B, and Andy Summers meets Prince guitar playing. And he's already released a new song called Rock Man that is pretty sweet, that consolidates his strengths in maybe a more concise poppy direction. So just a cool debut because it really makes you want to see what he's going to do next.
I had a couple that were like first time like breakout albums, but that aren't actually their debut. They feel like debuts, but they do in fact have other albums. The highest ranked actual debut for me is Where We've Been, Where We Go From Here by Freako. Kind of, I don't know, I hear like early Bright Eyes in their sound a bit. It's kind of emo-y, kind of rocky, a little bit angsty and melancholy and I don't know. Yeah, it's just good rock music. Senior Circuit Award. This is for artists that debuted 30 or more years ago.
You had a lot of new eligible artists this year, including Green Day with Saviors. I believe Snoop Dogg is now eligible for this award. He just put out an album. I haven't heard it yet, so not on here. Nick Cave and The Cure and a million other artists getting way up there in age here. But I'm gonna go back to an artist 50 years ago. They debuted their debut album. That was Judas Priest. And they are still kicking butt. The Indomitable. Um, Judas Priest, man. Rob Halford still can wail. They're still writing like fast, hard, technically excellent metal songs. And I think it's super impressive to me because even bands like Iron Maiden, which I still like their stuff, but like they kind of slowed down into sort of like this chugging, like lumbering beast of what they used to be. Judas Priest says, to hell with that. We're still going balls to the wall, ripping off guitar solos, just screaming all over the place. It's really impressive. I mean, I think Rob Halford's like 70 plus years old, and it's still good. Like there's nothing embarrassing about a 70-year-old Rob Halford releasing an album. And it could be extremely embarrassing, but they pull it off, and Invincible Shield still got it. It might be my favorite Priest since Painkiller.
Well, I had a couple that I had to look up when their debuts came out that came up just short of qualifying, not a surf, 2 years short of qualifying. Bright Eyes and Pedro the Lion, just 4 years short of qualifying, surprisingly already. Another artist that does qualify in my top 100, I got Pearl Jam, Dark Matter, but one that qualifies ahead of them, and that is Gravity Stairs by Crowded House, getting my senior circuit nod this year. Uh, I mean, I like the early, Crowded House records. Don't Dream It Over, great classic song, but I've never been like a huge fan. And going into a late period record, yeah, skipping everything in between, not really knowing what to expect, and I was just blown away by the songcraft and the recording and the musicianship and the arrangements, and kind of has like this Wilco-esque quality to it. I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was impressed with that one for sure. It's a band you wouldn't expect them to be good still. Like it just that kind of band doesn't usually have staying power, but I was impressed. That album made my top 100 as well.
Nice. Comeback album of the year.
This one, kind of it's like, how do you really define a comeback album? There's many different factors, many different ways you could take this. I'm gonna go with The Cure, however, because I was not a big fan of their last album, back in whenever it was, 2013. So
Uh,
2012, 2011,
8,
20, 20,
2008.
2008, way back in 2008. So, you know, that's a large gap. 16 years between an album that you didn't really care for, their period after, I guess going back to Wish. I mean, they had some decent stuff, but nothing I was crazy about, Bloodflowers and the self-titled and all that. So for them to come out with an album that is, spoiler, in my top 25, and ranked pretty highly in our Cure discography, like it did, kind of reminds me of, I mean, the album itself, but the way that they were able to channel, um, you know, their trademark sound in a slicker, more, you know, produced direction, kind of like Depeche Mode did last year. Um, Pretty impressive. Robert Smith still sounds fantastic. I think the songs are really good. So I was very surprised and impressed that they were able to pull off, a 16-year gap and come back sounding fresh and still excellent.
I'm going with the new Ed Harcourt record, El Magnifico. It's been a while since I've liked one of his records this much. He had a nice little run there from like 2003 up through like 2014, where he was just one of my faves, and then he kind of fell off a bit, and he had a record in 2016 called Furnaces that I was not too high on, and then he did a couple of like instrumental kind of new agey records. But he gets back to kind of like a full band sound here and writing pop songs again, and yeah, really strong. It did drop from 4.5 to 4 stars upon the re-listens though, so but still, I'll take a strong 4 star record from Ed Harcourt in 2024 for sure. All right, the next category, I don't know what we're calling this, but this is like we're the only ones who liked it. Everyone else was down on it. This was a tough one. I should have looked into this more before I signed off on this as a category because I didn't really know what to pick for this.
Well, I did. I knew exactly what to pick because I am all alone on Usher Island, coming home. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it's probably his best overall album. I know people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, what? What about Confessions?" Like Confessions is fun and a lot of nostalgia for it, but as an actual album, I don't think it's quite as good as people remember or pretend to think it is. Um, this one, I think it has a really great variety in sounds and approaches. I think Usher still sounds amazing. He's pulling from some like Afro pop stuff and classic R&B and his 90s stuff and the 2000s, sexy Ursher style. And it's just fun and lively. It's exactly the album that you'd think a legacy pop and R&B act like Usher would not be able to pull off because they don't. Like they rarely ever do that. They usually just fade away because they can't adjust or whatever. But I think Usher really nails it here. The only other good review it wasn't like completely panned, but the Discord did not like it. I think Pitchfork thought it was pretty decent, like a 7.6 or something, but it's not getting into anybody's top 50 lists except maybe mine.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have like a critically panned record that I love this year. So I went to RYM and their worst of the year. It was going through just trying to find one that I had that I liked, and the first one I came across was Power by Illuminati Hotties, which the the RYM score is 2.8. I have it at 3.5. So I liked it a good bit more. But then I went to Metacritic and it has like an 80 on Metacritic. So it's like I don't know what else to pick. I have like gobs and gobs of records that are critically ignored. I could go with any of those, but nothing that is just like hated.
The problem with this category is there are no albums that get bad reviews.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
There's two, like Katy Perry. I mean, maybe did you like Katy Perry?
I didn't listen to Katy Perry.
Well, there you go. It got a horrible score, and I literally can't think of any other album that like got a bad score. Like even like mediocre albums like the Halsey, The Great Impersonator, had like an 87 on Metacritic. So it's like, what do you even do here? Like Taylor Swift, by comparison, had like a horrendous score because it was under 80, I think, on Metacritic. But still,
Yeah,
like,
I'm gonna take the RYM score and just go with Illuminati Hotties, I guess.
there you go. All right, fair enough.
I even went to people who watch the channel a lot have probably heard of Vanessa. She's our Discord moderator, and her and I famously see eye to eye on like tons of new music. And I went to see if there was anything that like she and I had a big discrepancy on from this year, and there were none. Nothing of more than a star difference for the whole year.
That's insane. How many did you listen to?
She was just shy of 500, I think, and I listened to 434, I think.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Did you check the bottom scores on Metacritic?
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing, like nothing even remotely would
All that,
fit.
yeah, like everything on that list is like terrible, terrible stuff that I never would even think of listening to. It took pages and pages of scrolling through it to even get to Illuminati Hotties.
There was only one, there was five albums that scored under a 60 on Metacritic, including Katy Perry, Lil Uzi Vert, Gwen Stefani, Coldplay, and The Voids. And
I,
that's
I
it.
can't believe I didn't listen to the Coldplay though. Like an artist that I've heard all of their other material. That's one I should have listened to, and I just didn't get to it.
Like even The Offspring got a 70 on Metacritic. Like what is
Yeah,
our world
that's
do?
what are we doing? All right, last category, EP of the year.
Well, I listened to two of them, two EPs on the year. One was a K-pop EP from the band IU called The Winning, which I actually thought was pretty good for K-pop. And it for some reason K-pop is really into EPs. I don't know why, but that's like their thing. So I don't know. The best EP though, however, was Nourished by Time's Catching Chickens EP. Really loved Erotic Probiotic 2 from last year. It was in my top 10. And this is another one. It kind of expands the sound a little bit. It's familiar to anyone who heard Erotic Probiotic to think like 90s R&B styled vocals, but like the weird like rap interlude guys, like the guy who does singing on Crossroads. It's like super low and like it's just really bizarre. Um, and then a mix of like poppy 80s shoegaze and R&B. And it sounds really odd when you talk about it, and it sounds really odd when you listen to it, but it just works. It's really cool. And Catching Chickens, really great EP from Nourished by Time, and I look forward to his next record with great anticipation.
Mine would be, if you count it, it would be Kenyori Masaru, Japanese uh, rock band. girl. I don't know exactly, but um, it's listed as an EP on Rate Your Music, but I think it's more of like a mini album. It's like 30 minutes or 28 minutes or something. So
Right.
it's
Right
gonna
in the gray area.
it's right in the gray area, and I did include it in my top album. It's in my top 100. So if you don't count that, that's my winner. But if you don't count that, I would go with "Ouchie" by S. Grant Parker. It's kind of a pop country thing, but that just saying that alone will scare people off of it. But it's really well done. It's more like kind of in the vein of Sam Outlaw, where yeah, it's probably more pop with touches of country. All right, that's it. That's the awards. Stay tuned for all the other end of the year videos. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Check the video description for Patreon. We do all kinds of stuff over there. You can join our Discord. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.